What's going on, guys? The Long Well Fitness Podcast. Today we're switching things up a little bit. Don't have the Zoom call. Got my boy Josiah. We're going to come at you, talk a little bit more about fitness and kind of get more into the mental side of things. So me and Josiah met through first Anybody Supplements, and then we started working together at a local club for a short period of time, and we just kind of hit it off pretty hard. So what's up, man?
What's going on, dude?
Same shit, different day, bro. So we met kind of in a time where you were transitioning out of the fitness bodybuilding space and kind of finding this new path with the whole mental approach. So let's kind of start back with that. How did you find bodybuilding to begin with?
So it all started, it's actually funny because it actually ties in with my dog tag. So my brother actually introduced me to fitness. So it was that summer transition between 8th grade and freshman year. He comes into my room and he's like, hey man, we got to get you big for high school.
Yeah.
He was like, you've seen all the high school movies and stuff, all the freshmen get picked on and thrown in trash cans. He was like, we got to get you better equipped. So he used to wake me up. It was June, it was early June. So I think about 4 or 5 days after we got out. And it was 7 o'clock in the morning. He woke me up. We would do lunges around the house. He would get in a wheelbarrow. He would make me drag him all around. We would go running. So it was all about this fitness aspect. And 2014, mid-September, so I want to say, he shipped off to the Navy.
Okay.
And after that point, I was like, well, if he's out there working, if he's doing whatever he's got to do, then I got to do the same thing, back here.
Right.
I was like, I got to be bigger than him whenever he gets back. And so I bought Insanity whenever it came out, the TV program. Dude, which is funny because
I did 2 workouts. I was like,
dude,
I'm good.
I could never keep the schedule on point. And whenever I would skip one, it wouldn't sit right. So I'd be like, dang, I got to start over. So I probably started over 4 or 5 times, and I was like, you know what, this is not going to work.
You can't do that home workout shit, man.
Dude,
I don't like the home workout shit.
Dude, I used to come home from school and the first thing I want to do, because I used to always come home with my friends when we play Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I'd be like, you guys play, I'm going to do this real quick and I'll be back. And I'm like, okay, cool. But I would do it every now and then. I fell off. And so throughout high school, I kept up my bodybuilding, the fitness aspect, not so much bodybuilding. And, junior year comes around, people are like, dude, you're actually getting kind of big. Yeah. And I was like, I'm working a lot on it.
This was junior high school?
Yeah.
Okay.
Junior high school. And senior year comes around and, a little bit of size, a little bit of difference. It's partially puberty. Come on now. But people are like, hey,
late
man,
bloomer?
Dude, listen. it was
last
tough.
week?
It was whatever, dude. So I would walk around dude, I wore tank tops. I thought I was the best in the world at the time. And people were like, dude, are you gonna step on stage? And it was one of those things where I would tell people, yeah, dude, I'm stepping on stage, but I never really processed. I said it, but I wasn't going to follow through with it. And so I was it was mid-April, early May, I believe. And I was talking to my mom and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to look into it. I've never done anything about it. And so right before graduation, I signed up for the Branch 1 Classic. We were just talking about Branch just now. And so July 16th, 2016, signed up. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do this. I had no coach. I did it all on my own.
What's up?
And I was actually watching Christian Guzman at the time. He was doing the same show. Him and Shali were doing the exact same show. So I was kind of seeing them, how they ate and everything. And I got shredded, but you could see on stage, I clearly did not have a coach. I placed 3rd out of 3 people in my class, so essentially last place. But it was such a good experience, man. And throughout that process, because it was my first show that really clicked.
This was men's physique?
Yeah, it was men's physique. And so I was definitely not equipped for classic or bodybuilding.
Classic didn't even exist back then.
That's right. It wasn't cool.
Classic was only 2 years old, 3 years old.
That's right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so throughout that time of prep, I really subliminally paid attention to the mental aspect. At the time, I didn't know exactly what I was doing.
Right.
But the moment things would start hurting, the moment I didn't want to work out, the moment I wasn't feeling it, I was like, whoa, I think this is what they're talking about whenever they say, you're not going to want to do it some days, you're not going to feel motivated, but you got to do it anyways, where discipline kicks in.
Right.
And it was in that process, I was like, wow, this is me literally in that exact position, learning I can either do it or not.
Right.
Because a lot of people that start prep never finish it.
Oh, yeah.
Never finish it, but it's a hard thing. You're putting your body through hell.
Yeah.
And so you really have to tap in deeper. And after that show, it's funny, I stepped on stage. You get your 15 seconds or so on stage, you walk off, and there was a break between the morning and the night show. And I was like, if they haven't figured out, the placings and everything, if they can get me back on stage, I'm about to crush it. Because, I don't remember stepping on stage and posing. I know I did everything, but it was that first time.
Fast, yeah.
It was so fast. It was my first time, and I was the first person in my class.
Don't fuck it up. Just like, don't fuck up, don't fuck up, don't fuck up.
I was like, I'm going to forget something. I go up there, I do my whole routine, and I get off, and I don't remember anything I just done on stage. And I was like, did I do everything good? And my mom was like, yeah, everything was great, saw it. And I was like, okay, because I don't remember any of it. But it was like, wow, if I can get back on stage today and they can figure out the placings later, then I'm ready. It's like it clicked at that point.
Yeah. If only it worked that way.
If only it actually worked that way. But after that show, I got my first tattoo. It was just Mindset. Forgotten was not there yet. And it was my first,
Now, Forgotten Mindset is the new thing you're doing.
Yeah, Forgotten Mindset was established in 2017. But July of 2016, shortly after that show, Mindset was the first one I got because I was like, it really does start in the mind.
Right.
And from that point, it was just like everything I did all circulated around not only growing myself in the field that I wanted to be in, which was still fitness at the time, but I was like, I want to be in situations to where people don't necessarily grasp the concept of moving forward despite being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's like you got to find something within.
Yeah. So we have a fairly similar path. I started a little bit later. I didn't start in high school. I was doing like the physical fitness team with ROTC. So like that's how I got into working out, was like military stuff. So push-ups and pull-ups and running and all that bullshit. But then I had a few buddies in the group with me that were going to the gym. They were a lot bigger than me and that kind of stuff. Yeah. Started to see that in probably like junior, senior year of high school was when I started to lift more. And then I actually told my mom before I went to college, like, I don't want to be the small kid in college anymore. Yeah. And that's when I started to pick things up. And then I met some people in college that were already into, my boy Tristan was into powerlifting. Yeah. So he had something to work towards, and that's where that seed got planted of like, I'm not that strong, so I'm not going to do powerlifting. but somehow I had heard of men's physique. I don't really know how, I just had heard of it because at the time, if Instagram was a thing, I didn't have one. Yeah. And like Twitter was just becoming big. So like, I don't really know where I heard of it, but I had heard of it. And I told Tristan one day, I was like, maybe I should try that, So I didn't feel like I was smart enough to do the prep by myself. So I actually, a little while later, me and Tristan were working out at a gym off campus, and we met an IFBB pro bodybuilder. It was like the first time. It was like the coolest thing in my life. Oh, man. And
that title was just oh, snap.
Right. And I still keep in contact with him to this day, and he got me in touch with one of the coaches out there, and I've talked about this coach with another buddy on here before, but he was awful. He's a piece of shit. Is great all he is, but he didn't really tell me how to do anything. He gave me a very cookie cutter diet. Said do this much cardio, do this. Didn't tell me how to carb up. Told me after prejudging my tan wasn't dark enough. It was just like a shit show, but same kind of thing of like I just kind of fell in love with it, and it was like, all right, here we go. And then at that time, it was early in college. It was like my freshman, maybe sophomore year of college, and my parents were paying for everything. And,
same.
and so after we finished that, they're like, never again. They're like, we're never paying for your shows ever again. If you want to do this, you got to do it.
It's out of your own pocket.
Right. So I took a few years and started working part-time while in school, and then started meeting more people, and then met the second coach that I had. And then with him, that's when I transitioned into bodybuilding, and it just kept growing from there. And that's when I first went to college, I went into computer science because I didn't know what the fuck I wanted to do. And I loved video games in high school, and I thought if I went into computer science, I'd learn how to do video games, make video games.
It's not.
No.
That is not at all.
Fucking wrong. So I spent the whole first year of my freshman year in computer science. Like, I talked about transferring to kinesiology between my first and second semester, but I was like, no, let me stick it out, which was dumb. But after my first year, I switched to kinesiology, and that's when I really, really picked it up and really got into fitness. And then since it just kind of like went from there. But so we kind of started to touch on the thing that you're doing now. So you've obviously transitioned out of that. You still are into fitness. You still work out. you're doing your boxing stuff. You still do some weight training and that kind of thing as well. But that's kind of the
it's very secondary,
right? So it's taking a back seat to what you're doing now, which is the stuff with forgotten mindset.
Yeah.
So you say you started getting it subliminally, like through the process, which was kind of same thing with me. Like I picked that stuff up along the way, but it's not until the last like 4, maybe 5 years where I'm like tapped into it, where it's like I now know how to use that, you know, versus before where it was just like kind of going through the motions, figuring it out. So when did that start to kick in for you? When do you remember being like, okay, I can control everything around me via mindset? So when did that start to transition?
So it's actually a pretty funny story, man, because, you know, it's funny how, like, whenever, like, this gets posted, obviously, a lot of fitness people follow you and I.
Yeah.
And so I think it's one of those things where it's like everybody wants to relate fitness to life because it's very transferable.
Right.
But nobody actually wants to do that. People want to just keep what's in the gym,
right.
And then everything that happens outside, if it has nothing to do with the weights,
right,
with the surface level of what bodybuilding, powerlifting, fitness really is,
right,
then it's not going to have the same amount of importance. And so, like for me, like I haven't touched base on this, but you know, there's so many things that happen within the gym that you can transfer anywhere in life. Like a few things is patience.
Sure.
One, like you cannot go from like skinny twig to, you know, Ronnie Coleman in a matter of a week.
Right.
It's going to take time. Same thing happens if you're doing a business, if you're trying to get a promotion, that patience has to kick in. Like you have to be prepared and you have to be willing to go through what's needed to get to that point. And another topic or another branch on that is going to be, you know, consistency.
Yeah.
You can't get from point A to point B. You can't go from 90 pounds to 180 pounds by eating the exact same way.
Sure.
You got to eat this. You have to consistently grow and consistently do whatever's needed to get to that point.
Of course.
And that goes in business. That goes in, you know, relationships. Like you can't just lead people on and then like whenever it's time to like, oh, I've secured the bag or like I'm cuffed, right? Then you stop giving effort. Like you don't do that.
Yeah.
And then I think one of the biggest things is like the motivation aspect. Like when people don't want to go to the gym, when people don't feel like lifting, they want to be lazy.
Right.
Like that is the biggest transferable thing that I've learned because same thing, you know, with family, with relationships, with business, with life, with building yourself.
Yeah.
Like you're not gonna want to do it every single day. But if you're able to get your ass in the gym and hit legs whenever you didn't want to hit legs, then I'm pretty sure you can get up and read a book for 30 minutes whenever you don't feel like reading that book or learning more about something, you know, studying more, whichever. Like, it's the things that are so easily transferable, but everyone is, I'm not going to say everyone because people are going to get mad. Most people in the gym are very surface level. They're in there to lift weights.
Right.
They're in there to gain size, cut fat, whichever, get lean. But once they step foot outside of that gym, then it's that average, you know, everything happens to me type of mindset. They don't take the
same mentality.
They don't take the same mentality. It's like, well, you know, that's something I learned along the way because, you know, people want to talk about it, but then nobody wants to be about it.
Right.
Like, you want to be a beast in the gym, but if you're not a beast outside, what happens in the gym is irrelevant.
Right, for sure.
And so...
I don't remember who it was specifically. I want to say it was David Goggins, but... or it could have been Jocko Willing. I don't know. It's one of those guys. They're crazy motherfuckers. Crazy motherfuckers. But one of them said motivation is bullshit.
100%.
Or it might not have been either way. I heard it online. Motivation is bullshit, and like it took me a second to wrap my head around that. But you're not always going to have the motivation, the drive to want to get up and do this shit. Like. Yesterday was one of those days, for example, where like I was so motivated that I started to have a leg pump an hour before my leg workout.
Exactly.
You know, and like I would love to be able to say I can do that every single day.
It's just not.
But that's not always the case. It's not always there. So that's when that consistency and dedication to a program or a plan or like whatever it is you're working on is what comes into play and keeps you moving forward. And that just like taking a set to failure in the gym, it's those last reps that's going to get you there. It's the stuff it's the struggle of the reps that's going to get you the results that you want. So if it's a day where I wake up and I'm like, fuck, I don't want to go, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. If I do them, that's growth. You know, that's that point where like I'm now testing my limits and I'm now taking myself to a point where I would not have expected to go had I just only done what I could do when I felt good.
Exactly.
Right? So, like, I mean, since we're talking about fitness, you can always see those guys who just go in that, like, all they do is go in and get a pump. And they don't push themselves. They're using the same weights every time. They're doing the same workouts every time. And they look the same day in and day out. They may have built something decent, but they're not getting any better than that.
Exactly.
You know, so you can get to a certain level by staying in your comfort zone, but you're never going to go past that. And I think too many people are just okay with that, you know,
Yes.
and especially in the last few years, and then even more recently with my son on the way now, like I now have goals that are big, so big that I don't talk to people about them.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to understand, you know, like even my parents, like with stepping away from, I quit one job and I got fired from the other.
Yeah.
In a matter of 2 days, to where now I'm 100% employed by myself and there are no paychecks coming in.
Exactly.
And my parents, like, I know that my parents are like freaking out. I know that they're like, what the fuck is our kid doing?
My life, dude.
We're literally halfway across, because they live in Florida. They're like, we're halfway across the country. We can't help them. We're not there to do this thing. My dad's like, get your insurance, do this, do that, do this, do that. I'm like, I had to call them. I called my mom the other day and started to get emotional with her and stuff. And I'm like, I just wanted to call you to let you know I'm okay. Like,
I'm not like on the side of the road.
Right. Like, well, I just wanted her to know because I called her kind of in a not a panic, but just like really upset after I got fired from Concrete because it was just such a shock.
Yeah.
And with stepping away from Equinox, I was like not depending, but expecting that to be there. You know what I'm saying? At least the paycheck. So like when I called her, I could tell it like freaked her out.
Yeah.
So I had to make that call and be like, look, Mom, I'm going to be okay. Like money's fine right now. I'm in a good headspace. Like this does not matter. Like sure it sucks. I would love to still have that money, but I think now it's set me up to just put my all into what I'm trying to do and what my real purpose in life is.
100%.
So it's one of those things where like to challenge yourself and to push yourself to that next level, you have to just put those blinders on, shut the fuck up, and do it.
Exactly.
Because I was really bad about when I was younger, just talking.
I would
talk about stuff. I would talk about doing things. I would talk about doing this. I would talk about doing that. And I would never follow through. And then, like, kind of moving to Texas was one of the first things that I was like, I'm going to hold this close to the chest. And see how this plays out. Because I knew in late January, early February that I was moving. But I wasn't moving until August. So I 100% knew in my heart I'm leaving, but I didn't tell a soul. Like I started to tell some of my closest friends, like, hey, I'm just going to prepare you now, but this is what's happening. But then once it was like all solidified, that's like, hey, look, this is what's happening. I'm out.
This is going on.
And so I kept that close to the chest, and I felt like I got so much more out of it because it was like just putting the effort behind it versus just talking about that effort, you know?
So, you know, and I can easily relate to a lot of that because as we were saying, like I would tell people, I'd be stepping on stage, I'd be telling people all this stuff, and I was like, you know what, let me back it up and let me see what it's about.
Right.
And it's crazy because everything that I've somewhat told people I was going to do, you know, first of all, I'm very open about my failures. I'm vulnerable and I'm transparent because I honestly don't care. Like my story is my story. Like if you like it or not, or if you want to judge it or not, that's not my problem. I'm well aware of it.
Right.
But everything that I told people I would do, something has happened. If it wasn't that exact same thing, something else was similar to it. Like I went to Alpha Elite one weekend. I used to take day trips to Houston and back. It was ridiculous just to train at that gym. Yeah. Not like for CG or anybody there, but I like the gym. I was like, you don't get that out here. Right. And there's a certain energy. And so, you know, I was at Houston. I bought my first. I didn't buy, but I rented, you know, an Airbnb. And I saw Houston, you know, in a light that I wanted to. You know, it was great. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna move to Houston. Yeah. Right. And then once, you know, similar like your mom, my mom wanted to lay out all the funds, the financial, everything like that. And I was like, I'm really not prepared for that. But then later that same year, you know, I told people, I think I want to say January or so, that I was going to move to Houston in March. Actually, when it was after my show, it was August. And I was going to move early, whichever year, you know, so much has happened since then. Right. And I didn't move to Houston, but something else came up. I started working with JB, 4-time Mr. Olympia. I'm not going to say his name, whatever. You guys get the hint. But, I started working with him, and then he introduced me to Cali, the vibes out there, and I was like, you know what? No, I'll change that. I'm moving to Cali. And so, from January to March, it was just, one, I was on prep. And then 2, I was like, I went up to him and I was like, I'm moving out here, man. The vibes are amazing. I'm moving out here. And he was like, cool. At the time, whenever he was cool and supportive and all that, he was like, just make sure you're not coming out here with nothing.
Right.
Like, you hear stories about that, but that doesn't mean your story has to be about that.
Right.
And I was like, true, right, cool, whatever. And so I wanted to maximize my coaching business. And unfortunately, just being straightforward, my funds did not line up. So I had to accept that myself. And I was like, you know what? It happened for a reason, and luckily those colors showed later on. But that same year, November time, I got introduced by another person that will be continue to be disclosed. But it allowed me to move out here to the McKinney, Frisco area, and I still moved that same year. It didn't happen in the time frame that I wanted to, but it still happened.
Right.
The complete shift in what the context was a 180 difference, but it still happened.
Right. So you just, like, what I've been saying myself recently is just like, whether or not training at destination works out, or the YouTube works out, or like if any of this works out, at least I'm still putting out my intentions and I'm putting out a positive attitude about it. And the way I see it is like, with those two things, if I'm at least taking steps in a direction I know I want to go, I don't know that the YouTube is going to be the thing, or my Instagram will be the thing, or training at destination. You know what I'm saying? Like, there could be something else that comes along that becomes the thing. Yeah. But at least I'm putting an effort that will be brought back to me in some way, in some manner, at some time. You know, like 100%. As it's supposed to. Exactly. Like, it's when people start to force a narrative and force things to happen in a certain time frame, in a certain way, and like, that's when things start to fall apart. Yeah. Because the universe is going to say, oh, like, you think you can control this? Like,
let me wake you up real quick. Right. Let me see just some wake up calls.
Right. Let me show you you're not fucking in control. Yeah. And that's when shit starts to hit the fan, and like things just fall apart, And I mean, this podcast with us comes at a really good time in my life, because I am going through such a big transition in my life right now. And the thing I keep, like, the mindset that I have right now, just going back to that same underlying topic here, the mindset that I have is like, I had this gut feeling as soon as I found out about my son. Christina lives in Prosper. The gym I was training at was in Dallas. Those are almost an hour away without traffic. And we already know there is never not traffic.
Dallas drivers don't know what driving is.
The only time I've ever not seen traffic was during shutdown, when nobody was going anywhere, because there was nothing to fucking do. And it's not as bad. Traffic's not as bad now, because a lot of people are staying home for work, which is good. But it still sucks, right? Yeah, for sure. So like, once my son is here, I don't want to have all this extra time where I'm just trying to get to see him. You know what I'm saying? So I want to close that gap and make my day as efficient as possible, so that I can give him as much attention as I can.
Exactly.
Because, like, yes, I have my goals, but now there's another life that needs me. You know what I'm saying? So when I found out about him, which was about a month before shutdown, that was when the seed first got planted of like, should I stay here? You know, and it was like, no, I need to stay here, making good money. I'm on a good trajectory. Like, I'm on my way to being full-time. We had a plan for me to go up in ranks as far as like pay structure and this and that. We had a whole plan. Shutdown happens. Yep. Right? Everything gets fucked. Everybody's out of work. Like, I'm not training any clients. Nobody wants to do the online virtual training. I'm just taking in the money that Equinox so graciously continued to pay me. Yeah. And people are going to get tired of hearing this, but like, I wasn't in a depression, but I was in a weird funk. I was just in this spot. Like, and one of the biggest things that keeps me moving forward every day is at least having the gym. Like, having that 1 to 2 hours a day where I can go in, work out, bust my ass, like, it helps me structure the rest of my day. Yeah. So that got taken from me, and I'm not a body weight workout guy.
Yeah, it gets very repetitive.
Right, and it's just, there's no push for me. Like,
Yeah.
sure, it's a good workout, but like, I mean, I'm not gonna get the same out of doing a shitload of push-ups that I am like doing some incline dumbbells. Like, I think it's just not the same. So I took the time to rest and just, I played a lot of video games. I literally worked out twice during that time, and like was still trying to wrap my head around the whole situation that was happening. And then when Christine and I found out that it was a boy, it was like almost an immediate change where it was like, fuck this, like, this is awesome. You know what I'm saying? Almost immediate change.
Exactly.
And not that I wouldn't have had the same thing with a girl, but like, I feel like I'm more equipped to take on a boy first, you know what I'm saying? So once that flipped, that's when my mind started racing, and it was like, what can I do? I've had this idea in my head for a long time that I want to be able to work from anywhere without having to be at a physical location. So I was like, YouTube.
Yep.
I'm going to do a cut. I'm going to document the process. I'm going to do the podcast that I've been wanting to do for a long time. I'll start there. And that, for a short period of time, really helped make me feel like I was doing something, even with things not really panning out at Equinox. You know, things not going the right way, clients not coming back, all that sort of thing. And then, like, I started to have, I don't want to get into detail because, like, I don't want it to sound like I'm bitter or anything like that with Equinox, because I'm not. I'm very grateful for the opportunity that I had there, the people that I worked with. I'm going to miss them like crazy. But I started to kind of butt heads with someone in management, and it started to become a red flag. You know, it was like, it was this moment of like, hey, listen.
I'm trying to tell you something.
Right.
Your eyes a little bit.
So we kept, and like, it was one of those things where I was like, okay, it'll be better this next time, because we'd have these meetings and things would supposed to get better, and then it would revert back to the bad situation it was, and it would go forward and then go back and then go forward. And it was like, we were just constantly battling back and forth. And then I was at the point of like letting them know that, hey, by the end of the week, I'm going to give you what my answer is of whether I'm staying or whether I'm leaving.
Yeah.
And I was texting my best friend back home, who's like all into the spiritual stuff of like putting your energy out there, and the universe will give you the answer that you need back. And literally in the conversation of like, in me texting a message to him, talking about like, I don't really know what to do, but like, I think this is the right way to go. I think this is what I want to do. I get a text message from a dude who had inquired about training not that long ago. He said, hey man, send me your money, or send me the invoice right now. I want to start next week.
Yep.
And that kicked it off. Right there and there, I had the red flags, and then I had the green light. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, that's my answer. You know? And so my mindset has now shifted into this thing of like, every single person that I see and come in contact with now is something that a potential relationship I can foster that could become something.
Exactly.
Not necessarily money, but a connection somewhere along the way. So like, I'm just seeing all these connections now and trying to now shift myself into this scary place of like, there's no paycheck coming in, there's no insurance now, like it's all on me, but like it doesn't scare me. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like I'm in line with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, and you know, it's funny that you mentioned that, because for me, man, I have shined like a diamond during this quarantine, man, because if this quarantine did anything, it was wake up a lot of people.
Oh, for sure.
So like, speaking on your specific, you know, situation, you know, having heard about your son, like, I'm a firm believer in things pan out one way or another, you know, as you were saying. And so you worked at Equinox, you got that experience, then you had one wake-up call that already made you question this, and then life took that away from you, and they're like, okay, no, you were speaking about this.
Right.
This may not be meant for you, but you can take something from what I'm about to do. And, you know, one of the biggest things I've preached about as people during this quarantine is nobody's asking you to make a business. Nobody is asking you to make that $1 million idea. People are just asking you to finally call yourself out for the things that you said you wanted to do, but didn't have time for.
Right.
Whether that was family time, whether that was your physical health, your mental health. You know, as you were saying, like you were the days were going on, you weren't exactly sure where to go, but within that lack of clarity, there was clarity from somewhere else that kind of shined a light from behind and led the way.
For sure, yeah, and like the thing that the reason that I felt so drawn to like jump on this gut instinct and to not just like drag it out, because I've done that before. So kind of shifting back timeline here, back to that January timeframe where I knew that I was coming to Texas. It was a whole series of events. So January 5th, 2019, car accident as I'm driving to work, to like I was bouncing out there for some side cash. I was making really good money at the company I was working for, but this was just extra cash on the side. It was something fun to do. I don't really party, so it was a way for me to get out and do something.
I feel you there.
And like, so I started working that job. I'm driving down the road. This dumbass tries to take a right-hand turn in front of me from the left lane. And we T-bone. My shoulder comes out of place. It tears my labrum. The very next day, me and my girlfriend of almost 2 years break up. So these huge fucking thing all happened at one time. But if we back up even further than that, there was probably 6 months prior to her and I breaking up, there was this moment of like, I don't think I want to be with her anymore.
Yep.
You know, but like I had told my parents, like, I think I want to marry this girl. Like I was very serious with her. We lived together the whole time. This is the second time we dated. Like my mom was absolutely in love with her. So it was like, I put those feelings aside because I was like, this is what I'm supposed to do, you know? And like, I kept looking back again, red flag after red flag after red flag that I ignored, to the point where the universe was like, all right, motherfucker, you're going to listen now.
You're going to listen.
Like, we're going to force this to happen. So when I got that gut instinct and it was like, something's telling me that I need to do this. It was like, if I start to ignore this, at some point something bad is going to happen that's going to force me into this anyways.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, why not go ahead and take that step? Why not go ahead and take that leap? And I have 3 months before little homie's here. Like,
yeah.
And I would rather take those 3 months to bust my fucking ass to where I have a certain number of clients to where money's no issue anymore.
Yep.
Right? So, because if I set this up right, I can have super short days and have all this time to spend with my boy. And that's what I want. That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm striving after. That's what the focus is. Exactly. So it's just like learning to listen to like what your gut and your mind and the universe is telling you.
It's huge,
man.
And you know, the one thing that I want to extremely touch base on right now is, you know, as you were touching with the story with your girlfriend almost 2 years, the car wreck, or even what's been going on with the quarantine, moments of weakness uncover realizations of truth. So, such as your girlfriend, you know,
write that down.
So like in certain like situations with the car accident, you know, you were weak in a sense, and so was she.
Right.
Her reaction to weakness showed her truth with how she wasn't meant for you. Right. Moments of weakness with people with their jobs, or with whatever happened with this quarantine, or just anything in life, you know, those moments of weakness unveil who you really are.
Right.
You know, those moments of weakness reveal the truth within people, within companies, business partners, you know, yourself. And something always comes to surface that you never wanted to, because it's really the truth of what's going on. And kind of shifting that conversation onto another relatable topic, life will scream at you and you will not listen.
Right.
So like, such as you saying, like, the moment there's uncertainty in your head, a piece of your mind wants to dig into that, but it's not going to make it the main focus. Like you in your relationship, like everything was great until that moment of weakness. What truths did that reveal? Hers, and all the red flags that you failed to notice during. Right. So it was almost one of those things to where, whether it's uncertain in a relationship, in a business, you know, your mind is going to kind of work its magic. And if there's anything that's not meant to be, it'll show.
For sure.
And you know, people want to ask, why does this keep happening? Why can't good things happen to me? Why do I always mess up? Why do I always screw up? And it's just like, there's certain things that, you know, people want, you know, life, if this is meant for me, then say something. But people want, if this person's meant for me, if this career path is meant for me, when you ask the universe that, life screams at you. But it seems like the moment it tries to tell you the most truth, you start justifying.
Right.
Oh, well, it's been a good job. It's paid nice.
Right.
This person's just having a bad day, this, that, and third. You wanted answers. So now you spoke that to existence. I'm about to show you.
Right. But, and I think even the problem with that is like people ask for that. They want a sign, but they ask for the sign and then they expect it in a certain way. And that's why they expect it this way, but they're getting this sign over here that they're not correlating to the issue. You know what I'm saying? So like the universe or God or whatever you want to call it, like there's something controlling all of this. There's something bigger than this. You know what I'm saying? And like it's never going to be a straightforward, or very few times will it be a straightforward answer. There's going to be things that come along that like just pop up in your life that like you might not pay attention to at all in that moment, but then a day, a week, a month, a year, whatever later, you're like, oh, what the fuck? Like,
wait a minute, yeah.
Right. So like then you see the connections. So it's like once you can tap into that and you can start picking up on these signs and trying to figure out why that happened, what's going on, and how this relates to me and the path that I'm on, that's when you start to notice more and more things. You start to see that bigger picture of like how things fall in line and how fucking weird that line is.
Oh, dude, it's extremely weird. And I think another big thing is some of it's sometimes truth that you just don't want to, you don't want to accept.
Right.
Like if you're asking, God or the universe or like whatever you were saying, if you're subliminally or even openly asking for something to happen, you want your life to pan out in a certain way.
Right.
Tying this bit into like, how people speak with business and stuff, everything happens for a reason.
Of course.
And things are going to happen. You're going to have to lose some people. You're going to have to lose old habits. You're going to have to lose certain pieces of who you are that aren't meant to be the person that you want to be.
For sure.
And so that involves a lot of truths.
Right.
That involves a lot of awakenings that you don't want to have, but they're needed in order to develop you to get to that point. And that's why I personally believe a lot of people stay still. A lot of people stay complacent, which keep in mind, there's nothing wrong with being complacent. Like you want to be proud of where you've gotten to, cool. But it gets to a point where people leave behind, what you yelling for?
Yeah.
People leave behind and people neglect the things they know they want to do just because where they're at is too emotionally attached to who they are that they don't want to leave behind. And that's why people say, that's why people start saying, man, if I had done this at your age, or man, if I had stuck with this, if I had, listen, you didn't do it because you didn't listen.
Right.
You wanted something and you didn't listen, so you stuck with what you had.
Or it didn't fit your answer. It didn't fit the answer that you thought was going to be given to you.
Yep.
You weren't open to other ideas outside of how you saw it. And I think as you mature and as you get older, and everybody does that at different rates, because you're how old?
I'm 22.
22. I'm 27, and I feel like I'm just now getting to this point where it's you have to be very fluid with everything in your life. And what I mean by that is like you said, everything happens for a reason, so you need to learn to let things come and go in your life.
You gotta learn to adapt.
Right. So you need to be able to be fluid to where if I go in a bowl or a cup or whatever, you're going to be able to mold to that thing. And just you got to learn to let things come into your life and go in your life, because there's, I think people get hung up on things that are only supposed to be in their life for a season. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, people, hobbies, that can relate to anything. And that's if you try to hold on to something for longer than it's meant to stay in your life, it can now start to to have the opposite effect on you, where it's going to now start to
push you back.
Exactly. It's going to mess you up and set you back because you're not allowing yourself to evolve and, like you said, change into whatever object you're being pushed into.
Exactly.
You can't mold to that. So learning to let people come and go in your life and figuring out how, whether it's a 30-second conversation or this is a person that's going to be in your life for the rest of your life, you got to figure out how that puzzle fits into your life. You got to figure out why did I meet that person? what impact did I have, or what impact did that person have on me? You know, and like, there's always a lesson to be learned if you're paying enough attention to like whatever it is that's coming to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's always a lesson, and even in the smallest interactions.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're paying enough attention and you're conscious of what's going on around you, how you're speaking, how that person's taking it in, or how whatever it is, like even the most minor thing can have the greatest impact on you at a much later time.
Exactly.
You never know how that stuff's going to come back around.
And that's where you know, I preach a lot on self-awareness, because once you're aware of yourself and manners that you know what traits you offer. Like, you know if you're an extrovert or introvert, you know if you care about people or you genuinely don't. Like, you know if you're not afraid of judgment, or if you are, you know if you can trust people or you can't. Right. So being able to be aware of those things, as well as a plethora of other things, you know, as you said, you know, everything in life happens to you, happens for you, not to you. Excuse me. And it's like, as you said, people come for seasons. And I've become a huge advocate of understanding that you know, thing could be a person, it could be a job, it could be, you know, a feeling almost. It could be, because as you said, you know, being scared of not having paychecks, not having XYZ, you almost have to like lose or block out that fear and let faith and have belief and all that take over. So the same thing happens with, you know, everything. Like, people think since they lose a job that everything's over. And, you know, I don't know if I told you, but June 20th of 2019, you know, I had just gotten back from my birthday weekend. You know, I went to Austin, which really wasn't that great, but I didn't go to the right areas. Yeah. But went to Austin, came back. I had just got a batch of Forgotten Mindset shirts out. My first day back, I tried to log in because I was a shipping manager for a given coffee company, and so I was in charge of coming in, putting all the orders, and getting ready. They came in that morning, and I came in that morning. The password wasn't working, so I was like, okay, cool, whatever. I guess I changed it. The person who hired me wasn't even the person that came in. It was his fiance at the time, and because they're co-owners. And she comes and sits down. I was like, hey, the password isn't working, you know. And she was like, yeah, because we changed it. Long story short, she sat me down and she fired me for being too ambitious. Right?
What?
I said the same thing. Her exact words were, "We're looking for somebody, you know, less ambitious." And so I was like, okay, cool. Unfortunately, the guy that didn't hire me wasn't even there. I think he was out in Oklahoma for like a recovery or whatever. Yeah. But in that exact moment, the first thing that didn't cross my mind was, what am I gonna do? You know, I don't know how I'm gonna pay bills, because that job is what allowed me to move out here in the first place. And so it was like, you know, I learned things there, but it was in that exact moment that it shocked me. I was like, what am I supposed to do? Like my ex had just moved in. I mean, not ex, but now ex compared to, you know, that time. And it's like, I got bills to pay. Like, this allowed me to pay that. I don't have any, like, I was still online coaching at the time, but I was like, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what to do. Like, that's what should have come to my mind. What actually did was, okay, this happened. This sucks. What can I do? Like, I sat in my car for a couple minutes before I actually pulled out. Because whenever you get fired, you don't want to go home to the person that's living with you, being like, hey,
you don't have to accept it.
Yeah, like, hey, we gotta either bust ass or we're gonna get evicted. So I sat and I was like, what can I do? And, you know, and there was somebody I was talking to, Andreas, you know, and I was like, hey man, we had always talked about previously about me working the shop, being there, because I mean, I love people, you know, I love connecting, and I love fitness. You know, I'm not gonna give you, like, listen, if you don't need a pre-workout, or I don't like a pre-workout, I'm not gonna tell you. Jesus. Yeah, right. But, you know, I texted Andres, I was like, hey man, like, this just happened with my job. They just let me go. I was like, I can start working the shop or help out. I wasn't even asking for a job, but I was talking to him about maybe working part-time, helping them certain shifts. And so he was like, dude, that sucks. Come in at 2. That same day at 2, I got the job, and I'm still there to this day. Yeah. And it's one of those things to where, you know, as you said, like, you got to learn to take things for lessons. And I was like, you know what, this sucks. But a few things happened. You know, he taught me how to work a website. He taught me, you know, if anything, he was on my ass about getting things finished. Right. And the best thing that I honestly learned from that was he always told me to figure it out. If you absolutely cannot figure it out, if you mess up, that's good. Like, if you mess up trying to figure it out, you're getting somewhere, because you know what not to do. Yeah. And so he put me in a position, like, and then to this day, you know, before I ask anybody for help, I try to figure it out first. And it was like, You know, so many people are caught up in who they lose, what they lose, how they lose it. They get so connected to what they had in the moment that they don't understand the hidden lessons that are in there.
Right.
And unfortunately, a lot of people never really do. But it's a way of being self-aware, of being like, you know what, understanding things happen to you, but there's always something you can do, allows you to move on at a much more fluent pace than letting yourself soak and sit in sorrow and uncertainty for weeks and months. Like, oh, why does this happen to me? Like, it happened for you. Like, for me, I got fired and it opened my eyes. I was like, you know what, I need to make a stand with what I'm trying to do. And, you know, obviously working up until that, you know, this year was the full year that Forgotten Mindset came to fruition.
Yeah.
But if I think about it, if I had never gotten fired, I'd probably still work there.
Right, and like obviously this wasn't one of the main points of what you were just talking about, but you also managed to get yourself aligned with people who are doing big things, right? And I think that's an important part of growth in everybody's life, you know, and that's part of why I moved to Texas to begin with, because I was like looking at the landscape of the people I knew, especially when I started working the bar, seeing the same group of people coming in every day. Like, it was the same group of people week in, week out, doing the same shit, talking about they hate their job, this and that. They come and get fucked up on the weekends. And like, sure, there's a small group of people in that area of North Carolina that I was in that were doing things, but for whatever reason, I felt pigeonholed in that area to where, like, if I had tried to do the personal training and stuff there, people weren't going to take me seriously because they had seen everything coming along, you know, and like that Greensboro fitness area is so tight knit that, like, it's so hard to penetrate that. Yeah. So it was like, let me go to a place that just has a bigger population, has more money, and has young people who are ambitious trying to do something. And like, right. So it's cool that you've been able to do that at such a young age. Like, I wish I had gotten aligned with the same type of people, because like people like Andres and yourself, we see now the value in doing little things like this. So like doing the stuff that's not necessarily going to pay you right then and there, and learning how to stumble through it is what is going to eventually get you to that point where people are like, man, you built this huge thing. How did you ever do it? It's like, I fucking fell into it. I just figured it out as I went, you know, like, and it's, I feel like people that when they have these grand dreams and plans and stuff, they see the big picture of it, and it's like, how the fuck am I ever going to get there? Versus just being like, okay, what can I do right now that'll push me towards that? Exactly. And that's where getting around people, like getting back to my point, that's where getting around the right people is what can really help you level up at a faster rate. 100%. Because like, you're only going to get so far by yourself. Like, you can get pretty damn far by yourself, you know, but
there's a certain level that can't be breached.
Right. And so many people these days are talking about, I'm self-made, I'm this and that. No, you're not. You're the product of everyone that you've ever interacted with, you know? And the people that you allow into your life closest to you are going to directly affect who you become.
100%. 100%.
Like, if you hang around dumb motherfuckers who just want to drink every weekend, spend all their money, go to a shit job and hate their life, you're going to become that dumb motherfucker who's spending all his money doing this and doing that, working a dead-end job that you hate.
Exactly.
But if you get around people like Andres, who's like got this huge like plan and goal in place, and it's like there's an attraction. It's like, okay, what is he doing that I could pick up? What things can I take from him that I can apply to my life? Like, so surrounding yourself with the right people who are in that mindset and on that same path as you, I think is one of the most important things you can do. You know?
100%.
Like, talking about the thing you said when you first started to try and get on anybody, like just offering to help for free, that gets your foot in the door, you know, and if people will see the effort you put behind it, which is exactly what I've started doing with Destination and trying to build this, and like offering to train you, offering to train Andres, offering to train, like doing all these things and just like training people for free. Just let me show you what I can fucking do.
Exactly.
Let my work speak for itself, and then that money will come eventually. You know what I'm saying? So like, just those little things that you can do here and there is just another step towards that goal. And every day, if I can take one step towards that goal, just even the slightest little inch forward is all I need.
Yep.
If I got to drag myself there to get there, I'm going to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point, I'll be dead sprinting towards it, and I'm going to exceed that goal and be well past it. And have to set a new one.
And, I tell people all the time, any step forward, no matter how big or small, is still a step forward.
Right.
Right. And, touching base on what you did, there's an analogy, metaphor, the two, I get mixed up sometimes. But I used to tell people, where are your sun and water coming from? If you're seed planted in the earth right now, right? Obviously, your roots are attached to who you are, meaning who you hang around, where you gain information from, whether that's your parents, your siblings, your friends, Instagram, Twitter, the news, whichever. Those are going to be your sun and water. What's allowing you to grow? It'll
affect the fruit that you put off.
Exactly, whether it's fruit or, whatever type of plant, right? And it's like, people are saying, if you compare yourself to a lot of people, wouldn't you, in a negative manner, like, oh, I'm not this far in life, I'm not her, I'm not him, I can't be at that point, they did this, I can't do that.
Well, that person started way over here.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where it's like, if you come to compare people, or if you start comparing yourself to people, why don't you separate yourself from that person? Whether that's family member, friends, people you follow on Instagram, the things you read. Like if you start comparing, if you start doubting yourself, if you start, lack of confidence and doubt are directly from what you're exposed to.
Right.
So, and where a lot of people mess up is they just don't want to make the hard decisions, right? Mm-hmm. I've separated from friends in a matter of 5 minutes, whether 5 minutes prior we were best friends, 5 minutes later we don't talk anymore. Right. And it's one of those things to where what you absorb information-wise, energy-wise, environmental-wise, that's how you're going to grow or fail to grow.
Right.
And so it's understanding, like, if you lack confidence or you self-doubt yourself, that's from the people you hang around, that's from the crap you see on Instagram, on Twitter, on Shade Room, whatever, and it's like you're seeing all these negative aspects, you're seeing all these things that make you question who you are. You're forgetting who you are in the process. But they're just having a bad day. Like, no, I followed them for months and years.
Right.
Okay, you've known somebody for years, you follow people for years, but obviously for all those years you haven't gotten to where you want to be. So what do you want to tell me now?
What are you actually taking away from that?
Yeah, so like what are you actually doing?
Right. Are you just watching them be successful and being like, oh, that'd be so cool to do?
Dude, I started hanging around and following people that were in direct correlation to things I found uncomfortable to talk about, whether it was money, whether it was, relationships, something like that. I started following people that spoke about better developing that because it was like, you know what? I really don't want to hear this. I really don't want to accept this, but it's something that's going to help me in the process.
Right.
And it's like if you think about it, I don't follow any fitness people anymore.
Yeah.
Like, with all due respect, like, y'all taught me things whenever I needed it. Now I'm trying to use that still of what I taught to make up my roots to continue to help people to grow through the place that I've translated everything to. And so,
that just comes to like challenging yourself and like learning to grow in other aspects, because going back to what we touched on at the beginning of this is like those last reps that are challenging you or doing the things when you don't want to, the stuff that's challenging you is what's going to make you into that person you're supposed to be, and like, the biggest thing for me now is trying to let go of subconscious stuff that I've been holding on to so that I don't pass it on to my son, and just the other day I was having a conversation with my buddy Isaac, and when I was like doing a deep soul search and trying to unlock something to wrap my head around this and fully be able to bring it together to be like, this is why this is happening. It wasn't like a huge epiphanous moment, but it was definitely something that like I realized about myself where I'm now like finance and money has always been something that I'm like nervous about, right? Because like my whole life, my parents have always said, save, but never really shown me how. Like here and there, sure, oh, do this, do that, but like never. I'm very much a hands-on learner, so like them just telling me to do things doesn't work. I'm like, I roll my eyes, I'm like, fuck off, like whatever.
Stop putting money on
show me how to do it. You know what I'm saying? So But like more recently, I've become more comfortable with like just allowing money to flow through me and not being stressed when money's low, because like you never know where that next paycheck's going to come
100%.
from. And it's again, never where you expect it to come from. So that's something that I have to be conscious of now to not pass on to my kid, because obviously him coming into the world is now going to be another financial stress on me. And if I'm putting out that vibe on a regular basis of like money stress,
you're not going to ever fully receive it.
Right. Well, and then he'll take that energy on as well, whether he understands it or not. You know what I'm saying? Like at that age, they're like a sponge. Like sure, they might not be able to fully understand what's going on, but they can feel energies,
and they and they thrive off of that.
Right. And if his subconscious picks up on, okay, dad freaks out whenever money is tight, like he can take that into his future. So it's like now I'm trying to wrap my head around those things that I'm blind to, you know, and trying to speak to people like yourself or my boy Mark or the people who know me the best, or that people who don't even know me at all that might have a different perspective on it. I want those different perspectives, and I want the constructive criticism, because I know that there's a lot of things in my life that I miss. I know that there's blind spots. We all have them. We all have things in our life that we know we can improve and do better. And
I feel that.
or like you might not even know it's something you need to improve. Like I think something I've been actively working on for a long time that I didn't realize that I was doing is like, I'm a very passionate person when I talk, especially if something has like got me a little worked up and I'm a little tense or angry about it. Like my voice starts to get really loud, and I start to talk really fast, and people are like, dude, why are you getting aggressive? Like, I'm not aggressive. It would be that kind of thing. And like my voice would be raised, but I'm still in control of what I'm saying. Like I'm not speaking irrationally. I'm not speaking from emotion. I'm speaking from a calm place, but my voice doesn't reflect that. So like trying to learn how to communicate properly and show that like I have passion in what I'm saying. I'm not trying to push this on you. It's like without other people telling me like, do you realize how you talk?
Yeah.
Like, because I didn't, you know, I speak loudly, you know, and like I didn't realize that other people were like, it's a little too much at times, you know, sure, but it's things like that have like made me into a better person, and that's where I think a lot of issues come from today. Is like people aren't willing to have those hard conversations about themselves to move themselves forward. They want to put that in a box, and they want to be like, no, that stays over here and I deal with that on my own, right? Where all you need is one other set of eyes to now move that box or open the box or do whatever it is you had to do with that fucking box. But somebody else can help you fix that. You know what I'm saying? Just with the slightest fucking thing. Like, just, you can have an epiphanous moment on one sentence that somebody tells you. It's like,
oh really?
What the fuck? Like, you can, your whole like mind can change off of one sentence, and you don't know where that's going to come from. It can be the most innocent conversation in the world, or it can be something serious like this.
But it hits.
Right. Exactly. And you never know where that's going to come from. So like the lack of communication we have these days, I think, is what's holding so many people back.
Oh, 100%.
Like people don't do this anymore, you know, like obviously it's gaining popularity because everybody and their mother has a podcast. Hi, I have a podcast. But like on a regular basis, we're not having these conversations, you know, and there's so much more to learn from everyone, you know, everyone has their own story, has their own outlook on life. It's like, why not allow more people in to show you things? You know, but I mean, at the same time, you got to be careful who you let in and that kind of thing.
You know, and I was actually just about to say something about that. You know, that involves trust.
Yeah, for sure.
Trust. And I think trust is a huge thing that a lot of people just don't have these days. I'm guilty of it myself. Like, that's why I live alone. Like, I trust myself with my abilities. You know what I'm saying? But as far as like, again, you know, growing yourself and becoming aware of the things you become blind to, like at the end of the day, we all can remember a moment when somebody that we knew or somebody who was talking about their problems, you know, we're speaking on them, but then us on the outside looking in, we're not blinded by what's going on, so we can see the exact solution.
Right.
But people are just like, no, like, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it.
Right.
No, here's the thing, you're blind. I'm trying to help you from seeing from the outside, whether it's a situation or something about themselves. You know, like, hey man, like, you're getting a little loud. Like, for me, like, with my ADHD that I've grown up with, I've been talking to here and I wouldn't really know it, and I've been talking super duper fast, I wouldn't know what I was saying, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so it's those things that, you know, people who aren't willing to call you out are never going to be people that can truly be your friends, because they're, whether they think it or not, they're so caught up in your feelings that they're not going to let you excel to, and this could be purposeful or, you know, obliviously, they're not going to allow you to grow. You know, so many people are so caught up in, you know, living life to the fullest, but if you don't know yourself and if you can't develop yourself in a way that you're proud of, you're never going to fully live to the fullest. There's going to be always like, oh, hey, we're doing this. Hey, we're having fun. Wow, but a couple of weeks ago, I really did blow up saying that one thing. Or I haven't really, you know, figured out this problem that I'm having with this and the third. And it's like, you can't be present when you got other stuff going on. And it's like, sometimes you don't know what's going on until somebody lets you, like, is open to tell you.
Opens that door for you.
Opens that door.
What's behind it.
What's behind it. And, you know, it's those uncomfortable, people don't want to, you know, as I said, weaknesses reveal truth. And whenever, it's not necessarily a weakness, but when there's something that you're oblivious to, right, that weakness of acknowledging what it is and that feeling of unacceptance is exactly where that growth is coming from. You know, as you said about the gym, you know, your body's not made in the gym on your best days. It's made on the days you don't want to go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And the same thing goes with, you know, growing yourself, you know, mentally, right? So if you're not willing to make those extra reps, going past failure, if you're not willing to have those uncomfortable conversations with yourself and really address those things, you know, or if you're not brought awareness by them, then you're never going to really be able to do anything wholeheartedly and authentically, because there's always going to be something not clicking upstairs. But you know, your friends that, hey, let's go out and party, it'll take your mind off of it. That's exactly what you want your mind on, to help focus on things. And it's like, that's why you said, you know, hanging around like Andres, you know, or me, like hanging around you, like, I don't have any friends my age.
Right.
Like, I've always, not always, but like shortly after my first show, whenever I started, you know, really attacking, you know, the mentality and stuff, being around older people, I put myself in positions purposely or accidentally with people that knew more, did more, had more than me at the time.
For sure.
And subliminally, I was like, you know what, like, I'm kind of drawn to this. Like, you know something I don't.
Right.
I know something you don't, but I'm pushing that aside to take in what I can in order to grow. And it's like, you know, I got friends, you know, my friend Brian just turned 30, you know, you're 26? Seven, you're welcome. Andres is 26, and it's like, Nino's close to his 30s, if not already in his 30s. Like, the only people that are my age are my boys Cam and Neem. You know, I've mentioned this before, but over time, because we've all gone through things, you know, as you said, you know, money's going to come and go. We've all been through ups and downs of money, but at the end of the day, we all hold each other accountable. Right. And it's those, you know, I'm not going to say I was a popular kid in high school, but I actually wasn't at all. But you know, we all have our circles, but they all break down to true couple, the true 5 to 10% that are truly going to be down. And it's like, outside of them, 23, 26, 30 plus, like, I just get along with people that have adapted that maturity, because I've been blessed to want that discipline, to want to learn those things that therefore put me ahead, you know, on my path. That you know.
And I mean, it again, everything we talk about just keeps kind of circling back to the same stuff, and it comes down to like that fluidity we were talking about. Of like, you need to be able to allow people to speak freely so that you can hear what they're saying, take it in, and allow it to change you if it needs to. You know what I'm saying? Like,
take it with a grain of salt.
Right, exactly. So you need to be able to like pick and choose the information you're taking in, and you need to be very picky on who you allow to put that information 100%. In your life, because it's very easy to plant a negative seed. I mean, we've already gone for like almost an hour now, so we can definitely do this again in the future, but go ahead and tell everybody about like what you got going with this program you're doing. Spit whatever you got going on, whatever you want to plug, go ahead and do that.
So obviously with me, I'm very mental development based. Basically what I do is I allow people to uncover themselves. They have those uncomfortable conversations with themselves that allow them to not only accept who they are, but also accept what they've been through. Because at the end of the day, you know, as weird as it sounds, the worst beginning to a story has the biggest triumphant in the end. Right. So being able to let those stories build you and be able to find those lessons within those things, as well as the things that you currently have going on, the people that you have around you, you know, the information that you absorb, and really allow people to become so aware of themselves that they know exactly what makes them weak, exactly where their strong points lie, with the people they want to hang around, you know, and have more willingness to take control of their life and put it in a direction more confidently to be able to get to that point. Because, you know, especially with Corona and everything going on, people are very uncertain. And a lot of people are letting these days just kind of happen to them, rather than making something happen within these days. Right. Because if you got more time, you got more time to do something else. If you're not getting paid from your job, maybe you should find money from somewhere else or do something there. Like, there's always something to do. And so that's what I do. I really tap into people's minds and really allow them to acknowledge themselves first, and acknowledge how they think, how they approach things, and build upon that based on who they are by uncovering it at the same time. And so, you know, all my Instagrams are the Josiah Sanchez. Forgotten Mindset's obviously my brand here. And, you know, at the end of the day, I want to be able to make somebody have that realization in themselves to where it's like, wow, my capabilities on a given situation are simply based off of what I personally believe they are. And that's a direct reflection of how I talk to myself, what I absorb, the people I hang around, the job I have. And so, you know, I want people to look at me and be like, man, my life changed because of something you said, a perspective you gave, you know, insight you gave, or whatever may have been, encouragement at a time where I needed it most. I want to be that extra small step or big step forward that they wouldn't have had unless crossing my path. So
that's cool. I mean, this was a hell of a lot of fun, man.
I could keep going forever, but
I could too. I gotta meet somebody, so I gotta have a hard cut on this. But we can definitely do it again in the future. So the Josiah Sanchez, go check him out. He's always spitting some good truths on his stories. I'm always reposting his stuff up because it's always getting me fired up. Appreciate you guys checking in, and hopefully you made it this far. But see you on the next one.
Yes, sir.